Well, let's take you back to our top story, and that news coming out of Russia that it's about to ban those countries that set price caps against its petroleum products. Thomas O'Donnell is an energy analyst and lecturer at Hertie School of Governance. Joins me now via Skype from Berlin. Mr. Thomas, good to have you with us on the programme. Thanks for your time at very short notice. It seems we've got like a tit-for-tat issue going on here. And this is a response, really, by what the EU and other groups have already done against Russia's petroleum products.
Yes, it certainly is. I have to say, to me, this seems like a bit of bravado on Mr. Putin's part. This is quite, experts can argue about how effective the price cap will be, and we can discuss that. But the fact is you have outstanding unity of the entire EU, G7, and so forth, very broadly, on an agreement to very harshly sanction Russian oil. The EU is taking no more oil by sea since the 5th of this month, and by the 5th of February, they won't take any more refined products by sea from Russia. That's a stunning hit to Russia, and now they will enforce this price cap worldwide. Anybody who wants to use any ships insured from the European Union will have to, respect this. And already, I was watching, looking at Bloomberg's latest data a day or two ago, and the shipments from Russia on the European side, the Baltic area, had dropped by 50% in the early part of December when this cap was imposed. So is this, in fact, bravado from Putin? Oh, we're going to cut supplies when they're already being forced to have a significant hit to their supplies.
Where do you stand on the fact that the price cap itself is slightly above what a barrel of oil normally costs? So it does allow Russia to have that little bit of profit, even though its market has been drastically reduced by those countries that will ban it. But it does give a glimmer of hope to countries like India that really need oil and have to import it from all sources.
Well, just to be clear, whether you agree with the tactic or not, the EU made a very, as I discussed, a big cut, and the administration a little bit worried. This is so much of the world's oil that they thought, look, it's important that the oil keeps flowing to countries like India and China, and Turkey is another one that's been taking quite a lot. But let's try to keep the price limited. So that's where this idea of the price cap. Instead of right away putting some kind of secondary sanctions on other people who bought the oil that Europe now and the United States refuse to take, fine. As Janet Yellen said when she visited India some weeks ago, buy all you want, just do it below the price cap. Now, you can argue about where it's set right now because the price of oil that it's being sold at, Russian oil, is actually below that. But it's a mechanism. And that mechanism will be reviewed periodically by the European Union, the United States, and the G7, and could be squeezed. And this is very daunting, I think, for Moscow over time.
Indeed. I mean, they can squeeze it as much as they want, but at the end of the day, Europe, the G7, as you said, the United States and Australia, they still need oil. They have to get other sources. We saw the US trying to push OPEC to pump more earlier this year. It didn't really have any impact, and it's irked the US a great deal, that relationship between oil-producing countries and them.
Okay. Personally, I think the Biden administration made too public of a what we say stomach butting between two sides on this with OPEC. I think they should have gone a little lighter. Really, there is a recession coming. Most banks and most financial institutions will say it looks like there's going to be a significant recession this year in Europe and perhaps the United States not as strongly and other places. And meanwhile, China is having great difficulties coming out of COVID. Eventually, there will be the demand. So, just from a market point of view, OPEC might have a point. They're actually afraid that the market would be oversupplied, and I think it's a complex situation. The Biden administration is thinking more long-term. We want to keep enough oil on the market not to cause a spike and slowly squeeze the Russians. There's no question that in the long run, the West, when the signals are there, the Saudis, the UAE, and the United States can produce so much more oil. In the long run, they can take this market away from Russia. Already the Saudis are moving to take the lost market in Europe. So it's that's how I look at it.
I'll have to wait and see what happens and what certainly the feedback is from the US. It is a very interesting chess game at the moment. And for that moment, we have to leave it. Thomas O'Donnell joining us from Berlin. Thanks very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.